how would you describe the lifespan of a Bordeaux wine? What is their kind of maturity curve?
Obviously, we need to look at the different wines, if it's white, if it's red, if it's sweet wine, because as we know, the diversity of wine in Bordeaux is very wide. But I would compare maturity curve to the human life. The wine is very similar to us. You know, when we born, we're very little, we're very weak. And as we grow, we get stronger, we get wiser. And basically, this is what is happening to the wine. And at some point, we basically reach a plateau where we learn quite a lot in our life, but we still have a lot of energy to get things done. So this is what it happens to the wine. So it's basically when it's born, when it was made, it starts to mature, and at some point, it reaches its peak, basically, like for humans. And after that, a good quality wines, it basically stays on that plateau for some time. So they reach that perfect drinking window, what is called. You know, when a wine is very complex, the tannins beautifully melted down and round and soft, you know, still have some primary aromas left. When a wine is made first, it's dominating with fruit flavors and aromas. After it is going into secondary aromas, which start to kind of mature and start to get fresh, let's say cherries or plums, you know, going more into kind of dry fruit, dry cranberries, and after going into tertiary aromas, which is more leather, earth, dry mushrooms, that kind of aromas, you know. So, and in good wines, it stays on that plateau, you know. The same going back to that comparison of people, you know, and some people in their 60s, 70s, they're still running businesses, you know, they're successful, they're climbing mountains, they're running marathons, you know, and enjoying their life. Some people in their 60s, they're sitting at home and watching a soap operas. This is how it's with wine. Some could stay on that plateau for a long time, some go up and go down.
So for a Bordeaux specifically, can you put an age? Can you say 10 years it's perfect and then after 40 it's not, or does it depend?
So it really depends on a wine, the Chateau. It also depends on a vintage. Some vintages are good, but they're not vintages which will age really well. The tannins are a bit softer, they're really fruit-driven, and they, you know, really nice intent that kind of starting after 5 years for another 10 years, let's say. Some legendary wines like Mouton 1945. I've been really lucky to try that wine 2 years ago, and was absolutely incredible. And for me, felt like it's just reached the drinking window.
And it would have been 70 years old?
Correct.
Wow.
So, you know, some wines will collapse after 10 years, some wines after 50, 60 years, just entering a drinking window. In general of wines, I think Bordeaux, after about 8 to 10 years, it's reaching this really nice drinking window if you're talking about the red wines.
So speaking of vintages, what are currently the best vintages in Bordeaux?
I would maybe start with what are the best vintages in general in Bordeaux.
Okay.
And going really back, as we mentioned, phylloxera, you know, so
yes.
Let's take it before phylloxera. One of the greatest vintages in Bordeaux is 1784. The next, I would say, 1811, those are kind of one of the greatest vintages before phylloxera.
Are there any bottles left of that stuff?
Maybe in some collectors' cellars,
Whoa.
but
Yeah.
I haven't had any experience trying such old wines. And after that, post-phylloxera, I would say 1900, 1945, one of the legendary vintages. 1961, again, I was quite lucky to try from this Chateau Palmer, 1961, considered to be the best Chateau Palmer ever made. The next vintage, again, one of the absolutely famous one, and if you take going more into kind of area where it's still easier to buy those wines, it would be 1982.
Okay.
Okay. The next would be 1996. 1990 we need to mention as well, 2000, 2005, 2009 and 2010. And after that, 2015 and 2016, very two recent vintages, showing really, really good potential.
So why is one vintage better than the other? What impacts it?
It's got to do with a lot of different factors, but main is Mother Nature. Depends how, in what mood she is. And because the wine is, we can say, is agricultural product. So the same like other fruit, you know, some years, apples in England, it's much better than other years. With wine, the same, just even more complex. So it's basically, if we're starting right from the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
So if there was no frost, let's say in the spring. The next, if the summer wasn't too dry, too hot, was enough rain during the summer for grapes to have enough rain and sun to ripen. After that, how was the autumn, you know, when the harvest came? It was beautiful Indian summer or it was raining? Because when it rains, you cannot pick grapes. The wine would be effectively diluted, you know, so you need to wait until the rain stops and the grapes dry. These all factors you have to take into consideration. And when everything is perfect, like in those super vintages that I have mentioned, you get a perfect wine.
So Martin, why are there different classification systems in Bordeaux, and what are they?
Like 1855 was classification was created based on an order from Napoleon III for that famous World Exhibition in Paris. So that was the purpose of that classification. Saint-Emilion was created much later. Again, was not classified, and Saint-Emilion is a fairly big area with a lot of chateaux. And how do you know what is the best? And in Saint-Emilion, we got Saint-Emilion Grand Cru Class A, the Saint-Emilion Grand Cru Class B, Saint-Emilion Grand Cru Class, and just Saint-Emilion Grand Cru. We got also Graf Pessac-Lyon classification, which is for area just the south of Bordeaux city. We got Sauternes classification, Sauternes and Barsac. In Sauternes and Barsac, again, similar kind of tiered classification. Right at the top, we got only one, which is Chateau Yquem. Chateau Yquem is classified as a Premier Grand Cru class, well above, in a way, even from a fifth growth. And after that, we got Cru Bourgeois, some kind of generic wines from some appellations. Cru Artisan, that's one of the latest one, I believe, has been created in 2015.
So different classifications for different reasons at different times.
For different, regions.
It's not the easiest one.
No, it's not.